So hi, welcome to the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Jacob from Superlove.
and we're asking some questions today about their upcoming album, Follow Noise. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a bit mad really because to be honest, I never thought we'd get this far as a band. I never even thought we'd get the chance to do one album, let alone two. So it's good. I'm so excited because this I feel like we've definitely honed in way more of like a specific sound. Like we've got our whole like noise pop genre, which we're trying to like push as our like thing. And I feel like this time around, it's just like we've managed to really hone in on that coming off the last album. So I'm excited. It's mad news, and we've definitely got a lot more people on board this time to like push it out to, and a lot more people are taking notice of us. So yeah, can't wait.
Hell yeah. As we were talking earlier, the
Mhm.
album rocks, and it is great. Like from an outside perspective, I've noticed there are more people getting on board with every single release that comes out, and I'm just so happy to see it because you guys deserve it. The fucking album is great. Can't wait for people to hear it.
Oh, you
Absolutely.
too, you
Album
too,
fucking rocks.
you two spoil us.
We're
Honestly,
just
you
we're
two
just
are
here
the
to
best.
butter
So
you up, man.
I know after this conversation, I'm gonna be laying in bed like those guys. They were just like I feel so good about myself.
The
So
best.
thank you. I'm so glad, and it's sick that you've like heard it as well, and like because that's like the first proper big exciting thing when like people like yourselves start hearing it, and it's like oh God, what do people think? So yeah, it's exciting. So thanks for that.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it.
I know you guys are kind of going into like the noise pop, diving very deep into that, but I was glad you guys still managed to have a couple of heavy moments on the record. I always
Oh
appreciate when those
yeah.
shine through, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be done. I think like we had a few songs on the last album, which obviously we lent into like the heavier sort of side with like the riffs and stuff. And I think this time we were like, you know what? We've got full songs here, which could be dominated by like heavy guitars and like keep it fast and upbeat and stuff. So we were just like, yeah, let's just do more of those because I think playing a few of the songs off the last album live, we realized like it's hard to always replicate all this stuff. Like for the first album, there's like some really poppy moments and stuff like that, but it's they're sometimes hard to just like I don't know, make sound do it justice if you know what I mean. So
Mhm.
and all the rocky stuff live just instantly just like glued together and it just sounded full and we were like, well, this time around we'll just make sure that I don't know, we can I don't know, come up with it live because I don't want people to come to a show and be like, yeah, they couldn't really pull those bits off, but
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
nice
So
one.
then when we're talking about like the live set, you said the Rocky song kind of just come together. They're like natural. Do you guys struggle to kind of adapt the poppier songs for a live setting, or is that just as natural?
I think I think we can do it, like, and we have done it, but it just like you have to rely on a lot of because we're doing like our live shows on most of the time it's just us three like in a van, and we just go out. We don't have like the facilities to like bring people with us. If we could like have session musicians and stuff, if we were like, then obviously we'd make it work. But having to rely a lot on I don't know trying to change up guitar parts to like and like some stuff on track and things like that. So I don't know. We tried them out and stuff, and it went down really well. But there's no better feeling than like people mosh into your songs and like jumping up and down, and it's just like this is where people are really having the most fun at our gigs. So let's just do more of that.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't like we had to do anything sort of unnatural to us. It was just like doing more of what comes maybe more naturally, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense.
Sure.
nice.
All right. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
The title we've had, I think, as long as we've had our debut album title. So I think Colors and Follow Noise were album titles or song titles that John had for like a while, and he pitched them to me like this was like 3 or 4 years ago now. He pitched them to me, and I was like, "Those are so strong. Those just have to be nailed in now." And we never budged on it. So
Oh,
Follow Noise just kind of made sense because a lot of what we try and push as our sound is noise pop, and it's following up from like our first album, and it just sort of following more of our noisier route. We sort of like use the noise in our genre as like the rockier sort of sound, and then the pop obviously is the pop sound. So yeah, it was just like following up on that, and the album artwork is a funny one because we were following this whole like graphic design sort of thing for the single arts and stuff like that, and we tried to come up with some. We had some ideas for like the album cover, but it was yeah, we had to make the right call, and I think our label were quite keen on being like, we want you guys to be on the cover, and we were like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Because what if you look back in like a year's time, you're like, what was I doing with my hair? What was I wearing? And we were just quite
Mm.
nervous about that. But I think we just decided to go with like the moment and stuff. And we were like, well, this works now. And it would be nice to like look back when we're like 50 and be like, wow, we looked young and fresh and now we
Yeah.
look haggard. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's no like real story behind that, but it's quite nice because I don't feel like many. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see many younger bands like us doing that, like having themselves on the cover. I feel like everyone does like some sort of graphic thing, and that can be really cool. But yeah, we just went for it. We're just like, let's just go for it. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
Well, I just want to say on the record, I think everyone's hair looks great.
amazing. Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
Because
you guys killed it.
we thank you. We took those pictures and they were just supposed to be pictures for like our press release and stuff like that. And then that just ended up being the cover. So and also like that it's two different pictures. Like my hand in the original picture is like cut off and I had to edit on like another hand, like my hand, but from another
Okay.
picture, so it looks like a thumb up sort of thing. So it's like a Frankenstein album artwork cover. So little insight for you graphic design nerds out there,
Wow. I
wherever
never
you
would
are.
have
Hilarious.
known. Never would have known.
All
Well,
right.
that's good as long as
Yeah.
it's not obvious.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah, sure. It was definitely a lot more sporadic. The first album we'd had everything like written, like literally everything was written before we went and recorded, like every little note and stuff. And that's really cool because you go in with not that much pressure to deliver it because you know, oh, we're just recreating stuff, retracking stuff. And this time we were like, how do we make this more exciting? And by doing that, we went into the recording studio with like half an album done, if that. We didn't really have much done, which was like made us way more excited. And I thought we'd be like nervous for it to come out the other end like 3 weeks away with like nothing. I thought, oh my God, this is gonna be terrible. But it was exciting more than anything. And I think we benefited massively from it because we didn't have all this time to like think on stuff. We just were like, if it sounds good in the room, we'll get it down. And I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but that was like the best way of doing it. So yeah, we were so happy with how it came out. And I think writing process wise, like I had a lot of the songs were written like from me just sitting there with my guitar and like just instead of like writing without the guitar and like doing stuff on the laptop and using samples and stuff, it was all like mainly done through the guitar, which we did a bit of the first album. But I think there's songs on there you can tell which just weren't well, the guitar sort of came in as a texture towards the end.
Mhm.
So yeah, this time it was a lot more like bandy, like straight up bandy,
Okay.
which is something we definitely set out to do. So it came across really well. I'm chuffed with it, so all good.
Nice. So
Fuck
I'm
yeah.
assuming like the plan, the going forward for like the upcoming records, whenever that may be, is to kind of have an idea but fully flesh it like out in the studio.
Oh mate, 100%. It just feels like I don't know. Feels like we're being like classic rock band. Like by
Mhm.
doing that, it feels like I don't know. It's just really cool because I think like a lot of music nowadays is written by like people in their bedrooms on like a laptop and stuff, which like we did that for our like all of our songs up until this album. We would me and John would sit there with the laptop and like a guitar and like flesh it all out. But I think there's something quite cool about writing something in a room and just like it sounds so our generation, doesn't it? To be like where there's like a generation above us and above that. That's just how it was all done before. And it's almost like rediscovering that. Sounds a bit cheesy again, but like it's just fun. It's like the most natural thing. Like we have a practice room where we're like from here in Bristol, and it's like hours.
Mhm.
Like we just go there and we can just make like as much noise as we want, and it's yeah, just fun. It feels like um, it just feels, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it just feels like right because nothing is like too thought of. It's based off of
Mm.
feel. So
Yeah,
to take it back to that is has been really fun.
that's awesome.
Absolutely. That's fucking awesome to hear that you guys don't kind of, I guess, buckle under the pressure of fuck, we're in the studio, we have to get this done like immediately. You guys are just kind of
Yeah,
like, if it's good, it's good. We'll go with it. If it's not, fuck it. That's
Yeah,
that's good.
and
yeah, I think that's like it's that's obviously how everything was done before like pre-internet and pre like laptops and computers. But
Yeah.
it's just cool to do that like right now, especially when there's a lot of like I don't know, a lot of software-based stuff like going around and a lot of computer-based music going around, which like we love, but it's cool to just step away from it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
hell yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Oh, nice. That's a solid question. I think
Thank you.
the one that took the longest was probably the last song, Seasons. It took the longest because I wrote that like 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And then I just sat on it, reworked it a couple times, and then when we went away recording, it was like we weren't planning on recording that one. We weren't planning on like make putting that one on the album, and it was like the second to last night or something like that. And I just sat there, fleshed out a few of the ideas, like gave it a refresh because it had been a couple years since I'd worked on it. And then the next day we just like recorded it and we were all like, that sounds pretty solid. We'll chuck it on. And it feels like a closer of the album because it's like the longest song on there.
Mhm.
And that's not saying much because most of the songs are like 3 minutes long. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that one for sure like took probably the longest on like the timeline. And my favorite at the moment is probably Easier, to be fair. Probably because it's just come out and like I don't know, lyrically I like that's one of my favorite ones. I'm really proud of that one. Like all the melodies in there. So yeah, those two for sure
All right, hell yeah.
at the
All right.
moment.
Mhm.
So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Nice, yeah. It was a bit different to how we'd done it before. It involved like a few more people. Like normally it would just be us three, and we'll just be like present it to the label and our manager and be like, this is it. But um, along with like the album artwork and stuff, with what we wanted to do, we just thought let's get our labels like say on this and just see what they think because we were quite like entrusting with this whole album. The first one we were quite precious of because it's like obviously first album. We want it to just be like us, like as our truest selves. And I feel like we did that. And then this time around, it's like, how can we be the most impactful? And to do that, we were like, well, we need the experts. We need the music sort of industry experts. So we put together like a really rough track list, and it wasn't like it's not got like some running theme, so it's quite easy to be like, well, in the middle we want something slightly less in your face, and towards the end we want like a longer song, and then at the start it just needs to be like so impactful in your face. So as long as it had those three moments through the album, we were pretty happy with how it was put together. And yeah, our manager and our label agreed on like a track listing, and we were like not sure because we were like, oh no, Go needs to start because like it's called Go. Come on, like that's
That's a
pretty
fucking
obvious. And
banger.
they were like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. Yeah. They were like, no, it needs to be you because it just has that feel to it. And like if someone's listened to the album for the first time, and they've heard Go because it's been out for like a few months now, they want to hear something new, and we're like, actually, you're spot on. So
Sure.
we went with that, and we sat with it, and then after 2 weeks, we were like, fair enough, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, the record label know what they're doing. So that's how it came about, and I honestly love how it sounds all together. I'm like so happy with it. So thanks, Rude.
Hell yeah.
Spot on,
Fuck yeah.
Rude Records.
Love them. Perfect. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Um, to be honest, it was a bit like I was stressed. I was very stressed because, like, obviously, your first album, everyone says it. You have, all this time to write your first album, then you've got to follow it up with something. And I had really like high expectations for our first album because I don't know, I loved it and I thought, oh, this is going to be like, and there were some songs on there that did quite well. And it was like, oh God, label manager, they like these songs that did really well. So they wanted more of that. And
Mm.
there's like pressure there because it's like you're doing something slightly unnatural, if you know what I mean. It's but actually, yeah, after like a few weeks back and forth, I like wrote Go. And then from then on there, it was like, well, this is definitely what that album has to sound like. So it's just after that song was written, something good came about. And then everything else in like really quick succession just came along, like all these other songs. Because I'd spend like every single night sitting there trying to write some songs. So we had like 30 or 40 songs or something like that, or just like rough ideas. So it was a very intense period, and I haven't written music since because I was like so stressed and like my head really hurts from doing all that writing. But so yeah, it came together very quickly, very short space of time, and it was just very like stressful, like trying to follow up and I want it to impact like a lot more than our first album in our little like rock scene that we've got going on. So yeah, there was that added pressure as well. But
Mm.
yeah, it's hard not to give into that sort of pressure sometimes. You think, oh, I'll just ignore that. But it's just so hard with
Mhm.
social media. You just can't avoid it, to be honest. Unless we went completely off grid,
Yeah.
which is probably not the best idea.
Not in
Trying to
this
grow
day
a
and age.
brand,
No.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
Yeah.
afford to go away. So, but yeah,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. But I mean, hey, album is done, so I can
You made
relax a
it.
little bit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
Um,
did it.
So that pressure kind of stuck with you from like song one all the way to like the album being done and handing it in. Is that pressure still sticking with you now that the album is done and it's not even out yet?
I think I'd probably say like no, but I'd probably be lying to myself because I really want it to like I just want it to do what I've imagined it could do, sort of thing. And it's hard not like I have high expectations with everything we do, so it's hard when it maybe doesn't meet the high expectations to feel good, even though like all this cool stuff happens with it, like the amount of I don't know, it's a very number based game. You guys, I'm sure, are aware like as
Hmm.
well, like with the
Mm.
podcast and stuff, like it's all numbers. So I look at those like nearly every other day. So it's yeah, it's a tricky one, but I think it's still there, but just ever so slightly less the pressure of it. But the moment it's out, it's just like, well, I can't do anything else now.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So, and obviously, like it's your art, so you're always going to have these huge expectations for it. So, like when it doesn't hit the expectation that you wanted a single or an album to hit, like how do you kind of cope with that so that you're like able to move on and like not dwell on that, so you can just move on to the next thing? Because, like
Solid
in this
question.
game, it's just keep going.
Yeah, such a solid question because someone the other day was like, "You're releasing another album. I swear you just did one." And it's like, yeah, like this time last year, the first album came out and we did like 5 singles for it. Then we did 2 deluxe singles
Mhm.
for that album, like end of last year, and then Go came out in like January. So it's like been non-stop.
Yeah.
But the moment it like sort of you feel way better about the whole thing is like when you play live. We played a festival here in the UK last year, 2000 Trees,
Nice.
which is like the biggest festival we've ever done. We haven't really done that many because of the pandemic, obviously, like 2 years right in the middle of our band. So the moment we played that festival and like we saw the reaction to some of the songs off the first album, like Save Yourselves and Wanna Love You and stuff like that, we were like, oh, right, this feels way better about this song. And we were like, actually, fair play. like this was a good song, and we
Yeah.
were like, oh, thank God for that. So it's just moments like that, to be honest. And we had one, like I said, like last summer. So in a couple weeks' time, when we go on tour to do this bunch of songs in this album, I think that'll be the moment where I'm like, it's fine, everything's all good. Hopefully, anyway.
Oh yeah,
See.
and I think that's a great answer because when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm an artist manager. So
Nice.
I deal with the same thing that you kind of are dealing with, where it's like, oh, but we don't have a million of this or a million of that. But it's like when the band goes out and plays live, even if it's to 20 people, those 20 people know the words to their songs, and everything feels better all of a sudden.
Oh, you're spot on.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, the perfect response to that.
Exactly.
100%. That's how it feels. Yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
Hell yeah. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Nice. I think it's funny because a lot of people we've got a little like Discord server for like people who are like properly into it, and we like chat on there. And people have been saying like these songs are great for the gym, like these 3 songs that have come out already. So I think the gym might be a good one. If you're doing like an hour session at the gym, I think the album's just over half an hour or like maybe 40 minutes. So yeah, I think at the gym would be a good one because like back to front, like I don't think there's any like proper slow moments like we have on the first album. There are some interludes and like acoustic track and stuff like that, which yeah, probably you would skip at the gym. But this album for sure at the gym would be unreal. Be so good. I mean, we're on tour. We've got our first date of our tour, and then the next date is when the album comes out. So like that'll be mental for us to like. We'll probably like chuck it on in the van or something. So like a long drive as well. So the gym or a long drive, you'll be spot on.
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect.
All right.
I'll bike to it tomorrow morning for sure.
Yes, legend.
Yeah.
Love it.
Perfect. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. 3 words, no more, no less.
Nice. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. We'll go aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
There are aggressive songs on there. And we'll go lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a nice one.
and then we'll and then oh mate, it's an unreal question. Aggressive, lovely, and let's just go with red because the album cover is red, and that seems to be a recurring theme at the moment. I don't know why. Um, it's probably got nothing to do with the album, but I can't think of anything else. So aggressive, lovely, red. There we are.
Fair enough.
Perfect. It's crazy
Spot
having
on.
aggressive and lovely directly next to each other. Just polar
I mean,
opposites, but it
yeah,
works.
right. That's the best way to describe our band, probably. I think maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
See what people think.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I think a feeling of, I think like relatable. Relatability? Is that a question? Is that a word? I
Yeah.
probably not. But just
Yeah,
like I
that's
want
it.
it to, I want it to be relatable. I think because otherwise, like, because all the music I love, I find it really relatable. So as long as our album like follows on from that, because I think there like I've had a few messages from people saying about how easier the last single we put out is. Like people really relate to those lyrics. So I think that for the whole thing would be amazing if people can listen to it and think I totally get what he's saying and I've been there, because like that for me is like always what makes like a new favorite song is if I listen to it and the lyrics are like I totally just see what they're going on about and I can imagine it. I'm like, this is for me. So yeah, if people can get that from our album, then I'm happy.
Oh yeah.
Love it. All right. So are you able to talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Nice. I think the best thing about doing this album was when we went away recording, we were instead of a studio, it's like this house that we sort of transformed like one of the lounge or like the living rooms into a studio space. And in the kitchen, me and Tom, who produced it with us and mixed it, me and him would like write the vocals in the kitchen together. Like we'd bring like the laptop in the kitchen and we'd have like the mic on the side. And as we were like making lunch or like dinner or or whatever, we'd be like writing the vocals. So that for me was like a really standout moment because I didn't do that with the first album. It was always like super hyper focused, and I think we got the best vocals and like the best lyrics and melodies because we weren't really like thinking about it too much because the song was just playing. It was recording like on a loop, and we would just sing something, and then we'd look at each other and be like, "Cool, that's going in 100%." So I think that for me was like a really cool moment because I get proper nerdy about how songs are written, like my favorite bands and stuff like that. So that for me was like a really cool moment. I think if I was a fan of our band and was into all like the songwriting, I'd listen to that and go, "That's really cool. I'm here for that." So yeah, good technique as well. If anyone is struggling to like write vocal ideas or anything like that, it's a good technique. You just put it to the side, subconsciously you just come up with this stuff. So standout moment for me, it's got to be.
I love
yeah.
it. I'm so happy to hear that. I know you said you were still stressed because you had kind of the sophomore slump possibility, over your head, but at least approaching for this writing process, you were able to kind of tone it back a bit and go with the flow. As you said, you were super hyper focused on it last album, but I'm just makes me happy to hear that you were just kind of taking it day by day with this one.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think like the moment we went away recording and like that this sort of stuff started happening when we were there, it just went to the back of my mind, like all this stress stuff, and then it did crop back up when we came back home, but for at least the 3 weeks it was gone. So yeah,
good.
That's good. Hell
I
yeah.
love it. Love it.
Nice.
So for this last question, we are going to shift away from music and put the band in a horror movie. So
Boom.
you guys
Love
are
it.
in a horror movie. Got to know who's going to die first and who's going to survive until the end.
Oh, amazing question. I love it. I wish John was here. Like horror movies are like his thing. Like he got me back into them. So I'd say Tom will definitely die first.
Oh,
Tom Hennessy, because he's just like he has that about his character. Like if he was in a film, when you watch horror films, like this guy's definitely dying first. Like
yeah.
that's what I feel about Tom. He'd just say something, or like me and John would try and be all like stealthy, and Tom would just like go, "Guys, what's going on?" And then he'd get fucking mauled by some people. So I'd say Tom would die first. You know what? I'd probably die next. I'm not afraid to admit that. I'd probably die next because I haven't watched enough horror films to know what to do. Like the ones I've seen, I always watch and I go, "That's just stupid. Why didn't they just do that?"
Yeah.
And I'd be in that situation, do something that I think would be fine, and it just would not work out for me. So I'd go next, and then John will just live to the end because he's seen so many films. He's got the experience. He knows what and what not to avoid. And if there's a noise, instead of going, "What's that?" sort of thing, he'd just be like, "I'm out." So John would come out on top.
Nice.
Unfortunately, but he would. So
only gotten a chance to speak to him once the first time we interviewed you guys, but I think I would have to agree with your answer. He just kind of gives that vibe.
He just has that energy about him.
Yeah.
It's just Matt. He's one of those guys. It will all just work out. So yeah.
Perfect.
Good question.
So as I said, that's all the questions you have to say. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I think just the album. Hey, we've got another single coming out it's not really a single. We got like a video coming out for Overdrive on the day the album comes out. And I think that song I'm so excited about. So stay tuned for that one. And yeah, I think that's it. Album's on June the 2nd. So can't wait.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Jacob from Superlove, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.